Imagine the fear, isolation, and shame because you were born with an initially devastating birth defect. I stand before you today not as an executive director, but as a mother. For over 13 years, many of you have welcomed me into your ORs, your clinics, and your homes. You have invited me to stand at podiums at medical conferences around the world, not as a patient advocate reading from a script, but as a partner in this work. That trust runs in both directions. I do not take that lightly, and neither do you. 16 years ago, I became the mother of a beautiful little girl born in China with bladder exstrophy. I didn't learn about this condition in medical textbooks. I lived it in my own home. I held my daughter through 6 of her 8 surgeries. I've sat through long silent nights in the ER. I've fought with teachers who didn't understand why she needed to use the bathroom every 4 hours. I've dried her tears when other kids have teased her. When I look at the children in our community, I don't see cases or surgical candidates. I see my own daughter's face. You are the masters of the technique. We are the experts of the life that follows. I am here today to share what happens when the noise of the medical world reaches the parents' kitchen table, and how we can work together to turn that noise into a clear, compassionate path forward. The journey for most of these families began very differently than mine. In total shock. 133 families with children born from 1974 to 2024 answered our survey in March of 2026. 67% of them did not know anything was wrong until the moment of birth. They are not reading peer-reviewed journals in the delivery room. They are parents in crisis. As one mother shared, being prepared was not an option. When they sit across the room for you for that first consultation, they are looking for a lifeline, not a lesson in surgical mechanics. They arrive in a state of decision fatigue before a single word is spoken. And the noise they encounter, passionate disagreement between experts, that only deepens the confusion. As one parent put it, the doctors are very passionate about their different ways of doing this surgery, and parents are left trying to make sense of it all. These 3 pathways represent fundamentally different surgical philosophies, and families are often asked to choose between them with no prior knowledge that their condition even existed. The most commonly chosen path in this survey, the CPRE, is selected most often not because families made an informed comparison, but because many of them never even knew the alternatives existed. 22% of families were undecided or chose a different path captured here at the time of diagnosis. Now, this data is not about which technique is superior. It's about the reality of what families face when the clock is ticking and their knowledge is 0. Keep that in mind when we look at what comes next. Here is the deep paradox at the center of our work together. We spend so much energy debating which technique is superior, but 70% of family surveys only met with one surgical team before that critical first repair. They aren't choosing an acronym. They are choosing a partner for the next 18 years. There's another consequence we must name directly: When the medical community makes these techniques feel competitive, that competition spills into family spaces. Parents go to social media feeling guilty, afraid they chose the wrong camp. Your words in the consult room become weapons families use against each other on Facebook. And it doesn't stop at guilt. Once a family is chosen, they are recruited. Other parents become ambassadors for their own pathway, sometimes pressuring newer families to switch, even when switching isn't the right answer. A family that is stable when switching isn't the right answer. A family that is stable does not need to be destabilized by someone else's story. Honestly, how can we work together to change that? Because of the competing voices families hear, they rated the clerical information they got of surgical explanations at just a 2.9 out of 5. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a grade C. A grade C for the most important medical decision of their child's life. One parent captured it plainly. Every doctor seems set in their own ways and is not able to give unbiased opinions. Another dynamic that widens this gap: clinical language. Words like salvage surgery, osteotomy, failed closure. These are routine to you. To a mother holding a newborn, they sound catastrophic. Let's make it our goal to move that 2.9 to a 5. Let's do this by helping families feel they are choosing a path with confidence, not just following instructions in a moment of shock. The road for these families is very rarely straight. Nearly 40% eventually switched their surgical path or their surgeon. And that happened most often after a failed primary repair. That moment is not just a medical setback. It is a loss of trust. Think about that, a loss of trust. One parent shared that he was referred to a different hospital after the first surgery failed. Many things went wrong with that first closure. The message this sends us is clear. For the family, the first time must be the best time. When we prioritize placing children in the most experienced hands from the start, we aren't just improving outcomes, we are protecting that trust. This slide captures the fundamental gap between what you as medical people measure and what our families live. You can validate a high-capacity bladder and clear kidneys on an ultrasound. But the family's measure of success is whether their child can change in a locker room, whether she can sleep through the night, whether he can attend a birthday party without anxiety. Clinical metrics are the foundation. Social normalcy is the house. As one parent said, you can't live in a foundation. This is the frame for everything that follows. These are not abstract wishes. These are direct quotes from 133 families. Tell us all the options, even the ones you don't perform. Because true expertise is defined by honesty, not just surgery. Connect us with the families who have been through it. One family said, I wish I could have been introduced to one of those previous families that you've worked with. Give us something to take home and read. You know, a plain English guidebook would be so helpful. Please don't forget about us after surgery. One family said there wasn't any real support for parents or the consideration of psychological dimensions after their first closure. And please, refer us to a center of excellence. I think the importance to refer to a center of excellence where there is more volume and proven successful experience is paramount. As a matter of fact, 4 out of 5 of our families rated the importance of seeking a care at center of excellence even when it required travel. As one parent said, "I feel strongly that every child born with bladder exstrophy should at least be connected to a center of excellence." Yet 23% cited high travel cost, 18% faced out-of-network insurance battles, and 14% dealt with the initial denial or appeals. These families know what they need. The system gets in the way. My challenge to this panel and to everyone in this room: let's stop competing over technique. Let's start collaborating on access. A 133 families shared their stories for you. One global community just asking to be heard. Take a moment here. This is who we serve. This is why we are all here in the room today together. I'll leave you with one final thought. We talked today about techniques and data, but I want to bring you back to that little girl from China. Despite 8 surgeries and long nights in the ER, she is thriving. Anna is not a case study. She's a warrior. When you leave this room, I ask you to remember her face. Behind every bladder exstrophy repair is a mother like me, sitting in a waiting room, praying for a child who can walk into a classroom with her head held high. Our parents are scared and confused, but they are also remarkably brave. Let's commit to lowering the noise. Let's be the partners these families deserve, giving them not just technical brilliance, but a clear, unbiased, and compassionate guidance they need. Because at the end of the day, we aren't just repairing bladders, we're building lives. We're here to take care of the whole child. These children will grow up. The question is whether or not we have given them every tool to do it fully, medically, emotionally, and socially. The answer begins here, in this room, with all of us. Thank you very much.